I'd just like to thank everybody for coming to the OpenX Rollout Week wrap-up Q&A session. First, I'd like to thank everybody from NCDOT and NCLUG that was able to volunteer to help out today and offer training and advice and come together to put this week on. I know it was a lot of hard work on both sides, and it's appreciated by everybody. I think wanted to just kind of introduce Jeff Garland, who's going to be kind of leading off this session, and he's got some people from DOT. I think the intent is for it to be kind of an open session, one for us to ask questions of them if we still have any, and then for them to ask maybe some questions from us on the consultant side, just to see if we can get that flow of information. Just remember, for at least for the first part, please be muted when you're not asking a question, and please type your question into the chat first, and then we'll go in the order that they're received. But now I'll turn it over to you, Jeff, to kind of do the introduction to this session, and just let us know if you're having any technical issues and need any assistance.
Sounds great. No, thank you, Brian. And again, I want to take a moment to thank NCLUG. This was a great week, a really good opportunity to connect with the industry and really kind of connect with our NCDOT working groups as far as allowing time to work on the presentations and pull together kind of a snapshot of where the department's at, which is a really good spot. We've been working very diligently for a while, and it's a positive. So appreciative of that. Just to jump right in, like I said, I'm going to speak for maybe 10 minutes. I'm going to kind of fly through a couple of slides pretty quick just to kind of get the conversation started. But then we are really looking for some kind of back and forth feedback of questions, answers, thoughts, input. Again, as I've been stressing all week, this has been a collaborative work and a collective process. There are no true experts. We're all figuring this out as we go. And so we're looking for help wherever we can get it. So just to say it very clearly. Just to jump right in, like I said, again, just a quick recap of what the department's doing. We are moving forward with Bentley Connect platform, the open roads, all the OpenX platform products. So that's why this week was called the OpenX Rollout Week. But the main thing I want to point out is what a major transition and paradigm shift this is for our department. It's big, and the more we continue to uncover the layers and the workflows and the necessary change points, the more challenges we face. And that's good because we can't know all the questions till we get further along the path. So that's where we're continuing to make this journey. The paradigm shift word I use, I put this slide up almost every presentation. Big thanks to Jason Moore and others for the help on this slide years ago, but it really paints it out. I mean, the current process for years has been this two-dimensional generate plan profile cross-section sheets, and then as an incidental, make a model. And then the big shift is we are working on generating the model and then in turn generating those 2D plans. So again, the focus for the department right now is these incidentals. Obviously for our LETs coming down the road, we are going to use the plan profile cross-section sheets, the PDF, flat, black and white type rollout of those plans for letting for construction. But that is concurrently working and generating this model all together in ORD, and it's a mind shift. It's a change in how we're doing things, and we're very excited about it. There's lots of parameters to that, but really figuring out how to work without GPK, what that means, then that's been a big part of the department's process for years, and so that's a big change, and so we're working within that. Moving forward, and 1-2 slide there. What else makes ORD different? Again, we're really trying to integrate the multiple disciplines, not be so siloed where it was more of just a kind of assembly line handoff sessions. We're trying to really figure out how to collectively work and generate a single model together. Obviously, everybody has their pieces and their models and their design work they're doing in ORD, but how it all feeds together and all the different software packages within the OpenX suite that can really facilitate that. So we're really working diligently to figure what that looks like. It has been a journey. Again, we are squarely in this 2021-2022 state fiscal year now. I think Oak did the first workspace around ORD with NCLUG at one of the presentations, I think in 2016. I think that's right, Oak. But it's been around since about then. Lots of understanding, planning, training. But we're really hopeful the next year or so to continue true pilot projects, letting construction projects with plans generated from ORD and really fine-tuning our workflows and moving off of MicroStation V8i, SS2, SS4 as we continue this journey. That's the big part of what we're looking to do. Software is just one piece of the puzzle. I really feel like that we are set as an industry to really capitalize and leverage the intelligence that is in ORD and other 3D modeling pieces. Again, the hardware, the equipment's there, the standards and regulations from both Federal Highway Administration, our state and local governments, the manpower, expertise, it's all there. So I feel like it's all fitting together, and this is the decade for the 2020s. We're really to pull this together for the state of North Carolina. So very excited about it. We're doing it for a number of benefits. Just to recap real quick for our consultants, really that ability to design and analyze corridors and think three-dimensionally and see it. I think in Michael Trotter's presentation earlier this morning from Division 8, one of his comments was that you can and be able to really see it. It only helps with the design. It makes it easier to figure out. We no longer have to think in just two-dimensional planes and how it all pieces together. The idea is that we can very quickly and accurately see it, design, and think and analyze in a three-dimensional view, which is natural to the human mind. So that makes a lot of sense. From the construction side and the contractor industry, again, they are using models. They have the equipment. They have the AMG assistance, the automated machine guidance, the tools, the equipment. We just need to feed models so that they can be efficient in the field as well. DOTs and agencies, big benefits around really rapidly generating those layouts, helping to see, because majority of a lot of agencies and senior leadership and agency folks across the state, not everyone's an engineer. Not everyone understands the complexities of our designs, but they can get a three-dimensional picture and an output on what it looks like, what it feels like. And that feeds into our citizens. The majority of our citizens are not engineers. They don't get a lot of the design and engineering complexities that we work with in all the time. But as we move forward, augmented reality and virtual reality and these models, I mean, again, there's a point where they can really see and digest this in a much simpler manner to understand how it's impacting their specific communities, and that can only be a positive. Money-wise, for both agencies and the citizens and being good stewards of taxpayer dollars, the hope is really understanding and making design changes up front during the early concept scoping, preliminary design, so we reduce, mitigate, and hopefully eliminate conflict analysis, clash detection, things that happen in the field during construction, because those are the big areas where we do not have a lot of room to impact cost. It's going to cost a lot when we hit that fiber optic line out in the construction zone, or if we find we have to move or change a pier with the structures on unforeseens that we could have caught earlier on. If we had the correct digital twins, the three-dimensional design flows, we want to catch it early. And that's really what we're trying to do in this early phase here. All that said, it's a huge team approach at the department. There are hundreds of us and engineers and designers working on it, also within the field. And I want to thank everyone so much from our NCDOT ORD working groups. I know we just had a handful present this week, but there are so many more folks at the department working on this as we speak. In a quick recap, we had a very busy week. Moving forward, like I said, again, we want to touch upon, and we have representation from all these presenters here today, or we can certainly field questions around their presentations. But we started off with kind of what the overall plan is for the department, where we're at as a status. We walked through CAD services and where we're at as far as project-wise, the workspaces, how we're moving forward within the technology. From the roadway design standpoint, about training opportunities, different modules we're developing to assist private engineering firms and really understand how ORD works. From the structure side, how our structures management unit has really incorporated and ran with using Open Bridge Design or Open Bridge Modeler to do our structures design work and how that's moving forward. From the geotech, a lot of really great progress in the last several weeks and months about how to truly bring in some of their data, work with Ghent, understanding how borings map out within the software. From the rail side, a big thanks to the rail division. Basically, Brian and those folks have really stepped forward in trying to understand how to use either Open Roads Designer and the functionality for rail design within that, with our road design, or also open rail and some of those pilot projects that are moving forward and coming down the pipe with their industry. From the hydraulic side, certainly Bill Elam and team, as far as some of the challenges we're facing with the drainage and utility component, and a lot of those design pieces, we're making lots of headway, but there's a lot of work still to be done. But I really appreciate that. From the erosion control side, and Jeremy Goodwin, and certainly utilities and John Lowry and the team they have put together, lots of strides being made forward on how to use those within ORD. From location survey side, I can't stress enough our appreciation for Emory and the team and all the steps they've made in the last year and a half specifically to get to a point where for our base mapping, our location surveys, photogrammetry, and Faith and the team there have really worked diligently to meet this July 1 date. Whereas the department, moving forward, new design work, we want to start it out in ORD. And so we're trying to hammer out what that means. That will be the rule rather than the exception. So really trying to get out of the gate with that. And then from EAU, certainly David Johnson, thank you very much. Really trying to see how this maps with our environmental analysis unit. Lots of headway there as well. In terms of work zone traffic control, signing, signals, big thanks to Justin and Walter and Nick for their presentations yesterday. Really trying to figure out what the impacts are and what should maybe remain 2D right now, what we can move forward with in a three-dimensional model from these areas, and what that cost benefit is, and what those true next steps in the industry are. Those guys are working very diligently from their specific areas. And then from the division standpoint this morning, really big thanks to Michael Trotter, walking through some true testing and piloting of what the software can do, and really on some of the smaller, the more like fast-paced design work in the divisions where they need to put together a design rather quickly, covering multiple disciplines and multiple areas, how ORD can be used for that. And that was a great presentation and live demo this morning. So thank you for that, Michael. And that brings us here to this afternoon. I believe this is the 14th session in a week. So this has been quite the shotgun effect of really touching upon a number of areas. So we're hoping that brings up a lot of questions, a lot of thoughts for the industry. And moving forward from here, we want to take the remainder of the summer and really continue a lot of the ongoing work around piloting, training, testing the software, figuring out how we're going to do some of the specific things, and really work on documentation to share with the industry. And then this fall and winter, continue that to get to a point where more of our disciplines have their workspaces locked down, their training, their guidance, because a lot of these projects that are going to be starting out, they're going to roll into their areas for true production work using ORD starting this fall and winter and into 2022 and 2023 when we work on some of those first modeling pilot and test projects. That's the goal. Like I said, again, there will be side-by-side two-dimensional plans, PDF plans as usual for these, but we really want to get to a practice sessions where we try to use the model to let for contract, but we're not there yet as a department. So all that aside, again, lots of testing, lots of piloting. If you have interest in firms or you have the ability to work in ORD, when to convert, which ones we can switch over for existing projects or new ones, work with your project manager. That's the biggest thing I'm trying to instruct everybody, including our project managers here at the ORD or at DOT. Some of the projects that make sense, it would be a good time to really switch over, learn, use ORD. It'd be a win for the firms, a win for the department. Some of them that are on tighter schedules, maybe more complex, different situations, we may just wrap up in SS2, SS4, and that's fine too. We have that flexibility. We're trying to figure that out and do what's right for the department. Training, just keep your eyes posted to the websites. Obviously, between Bentley and the NCDOT and our firms out there, we're trying to make sure we get as much training options for as many folks as possible, and we continue to work on that every day. So I say all that, we've had this slide up on all the presentations, but I really mean it. We are working a lot internally, but we've got to figure out how to work collectively as a team and really figure out that multi-prong approach to work with industry. And that's a big part of what this week was, is outreach, communication, be very open and transparent on where the department is, where our challenges are, what some of our next steps are, and looking for help. Like I said, we're trying to figure out as we go as well. So I'm going to pause there and really just start kind of open up for more dialogue. I really appreciate everyone's time and energy this week. Obviously, we have a website, we have an email address. You can reach directly out to me. Had a lot of great questions already this week, but we'll just dive into Q&A for now, and we'll go from there. So with that said, Brian, I may open up. I know we have some pre-scripted questions from Brian Caldwell, but Brian Lambert, like I said, we can also start taking some from the chat as well. And Dean, thank you for the kind words. Like I said, again, I have a great job and be able to facilitate working with a lot of wonderful, intelligent, strong-minded folks that really help drive this forward. So just trying to be the facilitator. So thank you. But with that said, I'll turn over to Brian, and Brian, kind of take us with our conversation.
Okay, well then, thank you for that, and I'll open it up to the group. If anybody has a question that they'd like to ask Jeff or his team, or just a question in general, feel free to unmute yourself and ask it now, or you can put it in the chat or raise your hand and we can address it that way. If nobody has any questions, then yes, we can move to the questions that you and Brian had come up with beforehand. So I'll open it up. If anybody's got a question now, here's your chance.
Jeff, this is Dean Sarvis. Could you back up to the paradigm shift slide for a little bit?
Oh, sure.
One thing I want to note about that for everybody, I think it's something that's worth noting from a nerdy technical side of things. Back one more.
Yep, it's right there. Yep.
Okay. Down at the very bottom, there's something that probably needs to be noted, and there's a lot of instances, and you'll notice this when you start to go through the training, where that 3D model actually comes before the 2D, 3D design workflows. We're trying to harness the ability of the templates to draw a lot of our design for us. And that is definitely a big paradigm shift from what we're used to. So you might, in some instances, be looking at a paradigm shift where that 3D model actually comes first and it draws a lot of your stuff in the file for you, and then you come in and you detail it out. So not only are we shifting around a little bit, it's almost in reverse order sometimes when you really get down to it.
That's an excellent point, Dean. I feel like I should have like this arrow go both ways, or have it like kind of concurrently with that, but no, I see it kind of feeds back and forth. You're right.
It does. It's like it goes 3D to 2D, and then 2D, 3D to 2D, and 2D back to 3D, and they are very much related.
And Dean, that brings up an interesting point that we as the department have been discussing very openly the last year or two, is the fact that historically our design work's been very linear, kind of assembly line type thing, where it's a very set handoff of different phases and milestones to different units for their design piece, kind of siloed and handoff. With this kind of change in workflow idea, we're trying to really open ourselves up to how is it more of kind of a iterative back and forth, very quick, you know what I'm saying, to see and work within the same model, so it's not such a linear process. And so there's a lot of efficiencies to be gained there. So we're exploring that as we speak.
Thanks, Jeff.
And I see the chat in there about where would the presentations be posted. They're on the NCLUG site already, I believe. Is that correct, Brian?
Yes, they'll be up there. I think some of them have been posted, and if not, they'll be posted soon. And then it'll probably be a couple days after this conference is over that one of our volunteers can find the time to do all the PDF applications and start sending those out. But I know that's a big push, but you'll start seeing those come out shortly after the conference. And then I guess there's a question from Gary Gunther. He's saying that when he clicks on auto turn, nothing has happened. I assume, Gary, do you want to expand on that, or are you just asking will auto turn be incorporated into ORD?
Well, no, I got auto turn finally, and when I click on it, it used to have the little buttons at the top to where you can click on the line, and then you hit your this other button to make the truck make the turns to see where the wheel path is and all that. Well, the little buttons don't come up. It just auto turn pro just comes up like it's gonna come on. Then that's it. You don't see anything to work with.
And I guess it's just a blank gray bar, and all it says is auto turn. Is that what it is?
No,
No icons.
Yes, that's it. No icons.
Yep.
Come up.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a CAD IT sort of issue. I think it happens with something to do with the files missing in the folder. You might want to check on the IT NCDOT CAD IT guys. They'll have to set something up. I think it's something to do with the permissions.
Well, and also probably AutoTurn's like a third-party program, so that kind of will lead into, you know, as Bentley is doing their updates, things are going to have to catch up with each update they do, and then make sure everything works correctly. I know Oak was saying they're just now beta testing, I guess, release 3, if that's correct, Oak, for 2021, and I saw Bentley just released the first update for 2021. So that's going to be something also that we'll see as, I guess, Open Road starts rolling out new versions. Things that might have worked before are probably going to break. That's just the way Bentley seems to run. I'm sure y'all have all experienced that. So Oak, can you confirm? I think the intent is supposed to be less specific NCDOT applications and more just rely on what Bentley provides to kind of cut down on that. Is that still the overall goal moving forward?
Yeah, schema change will be a persistent problem when dealing with ORD, but we built these. There's 4 Transoft solution application. We do integrate with the NCDOT ribbon. That AutoTurn is one of them. That it works internally inside. And as Vasim said, the problem was during the installation. We found out that it was missing folders. So I think in our workspace, CAD services included some kind of fix with zip file create these extra folder that it needed to work properly. So check out the NCDOT workspace. When starting AutoTurn, there should be a zip file to unpack those empty folder it was missing during the installation. And AutoTurn should work properly. But as Ryan has mentioned, yeah, it's a schema change with new ORD, but Transoft Solutions is integrated with a lot of NCDOT units workflows that we felt that it was necessary to include these launch buttons in our workspace. But if I could share my screen, it works for us. But I don't know how you guys feel that way.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. And then it looks like we have another question from Jeffrey Lomax, and I think he's asking about Open Bridge and SMU, and as far as what they're moving forward with as far as standard plans, and looks like, I'm guessing, like, will they be converting that to open roads, or is that something that's going to be available on the DOT website? Jeffrey, was there anything else that you wanted to ask regarding that, or did I cover it?
You pretty much covered. I did have a follow-up question though, with respect to the SMU low impact bridge replacement projects. They're heavily using standard details, and you know, don't know if there's going to be a need to perform any more open bridge or bridge modeler or anything like that for those projects. Just want to kind of get a feel for where the department is heading.
Yeah, and that's a excellent question, Jeff. I don't believe Nick Pierce is on this afternoon. I know he has some other things, I believe. But like I said, he would be the best one to address that question. I do know that obviously Nick and team are moving forward with using OBD and OBM for the low impact bridge, as well as the other projects here, starting basically this summer now and this July. So as far as the standards and what they're using, I'm sure that they're in process or will be updating those accordingly. But I don't know the exact plan or time frame though, Jeff.
Okay, thank you, and very nice job on the presentation this week.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Yeah, and I'm definitely not a structural engineer, so I won't volunteer too much. But I know for SMU on some of the newer projects, they are kind of moving forward with still do your normal plan workflow, but then they are asking you to start doing an open bridge model, but it's not going to be the deliverable just yet, but it's kind of more of a a test pilot project to the extent don't hold me to that because I'm definitely not going to speak for the SMU group, but that seems to be what they're doing. And I'm sure we'll kind of, other units will be the same, like kind of like they were saying, we might have some 2D and 3D and some normal microstation and ORD kind of working side by side for a while until we make the full switch over. Is that your sense, Jeff?
Yeah, I think that's a accurate statement. Like I said, again, we're trying to do this as much, not just, we want to make sure we're prepared. And like I said, again, we want to use the tools in our tool chest that we have. There's no sense in just throwing out everything just to start with this. We're not 100% certain. So we're trying to do it at the right pace. And so we are working through each of these steps, but that's a good point. And then I see Gary's got another question here.
Yes, and Oak, I don't know if you want to take that. It looks like he's saying, do you have, I guess, what's your plan for plotting sheets and annotation and everything else? I'm
Yeah.
guessing his question might be best handled by you, but anybody else is free to chime in.
Yeah, so we do have some pen tables, print styles, and some other things set up, sheet indexing set up for printing. I'm hoping to cover that in our sheeting module, but yeah, we're mainly focusing on microstation print and moving away from iPlot because we receive a lot of comments from the firms that iPlot just costs a little bit more and microstations print is free, so we are developing the print, MS Print capability in pen tables, the TBL.
So where is it?
It's in
Where is
Roadways
that at?
Workspace. It's in Roadways Workspace. And
Okay. So there's no more iPlot, is what you're saying.
there is still iPlot, and the since SS3 you can piggyback the iPlot design scripts to the MS Print and vice versa. But we are banning the iPlot .pen design script and developing more to the MS Print and Print Organizer. When you do work, the paradigm, I mean, I think Jeff alluded to is ProjectWise use ProjectWise Interplot, which is iPlot. So there's some coordination between ProjectWise and the non-managed workspace going on there too. So I think both systems will work in ProjectWise, but the plan is, yeah, we are developing more, favoring the MS Print over ProjectWise Interplot because it's free.
And Oak, this is probably a good segue into the next question because I guess you said you were going to be doing a training module for that, and can you remind everybody where y'all's training modules are going to be? I think is the next question.
Yeah, Jason Moore, I guess, is presented earlier, and I was with him, but sorry, I was on vacation all last week. I couldn't make any more inputs because I really want to do some more live demo along with the training modules. But yeah, we do have, there's a list that Jason presented it there, and we were able to hit, I think we had maybe 7 or 8 or more training module, but only 3 we couldn't do it at this time, and sheeting was one of them. We are in the process of completing that, and we got Dean started it, Sarvis started it for us, and we have a good understanding how we want to tackle that training module, but just we couldn't get it finished at this time.
And you're going to load those on the Connect workspace, correct? On the Connect site.
Yeah, once we have them available, like I said, if we'll have directions to it from our Connect website, the ORD implementation website we've had up for a while. Like I said, it may point to the roadway location. We're trying to figure out exactly where we're going to put them right now, actually. But like I said, we will post them out once we have them, and we'll we will point to it from our website one way or another. So I would check the ORD website.
Yeah, so most of it have been vetted internally. As a matter of fact, today we're going to release the super elevation and the intermediate corridor modeling for internal vetting. But as Jason Ward said earlier this week, we're looking at probably next week to publish all of it online on our webpage in the Roadway Connect website. And that may be linked to the storefront, as Jeff would call it, ORD implementation storefront. So you know, it's a one-stop shop place to get all your ORD information.
All right, then I don't see any other questions in the chat, but if anybody,
I think there was some backup actually. If you back
I
up
missed
to
one.
it, yeah, there's a couple there. I think. And Michael, I know you made a comment about the auto turn tool. To maybe address Gary's question.
Yep. When I pulled it up, I got the auto turn welcome page, which got the little animation, but the toolboxes themselves don't come up automatically. If you pull up the toolboxes by going in the search, and then you have to go through that and find the auto turn tools boxes in the toolbox list. Does that make sense? Or you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, that makes sense. I got you.
You got it, Gary. And then thank you for that, Michael. And then below that, I think Lisa had a question too about ProjectWise.
Yes, I see two questions now.
Yep.
Sorry, I missed those. And hey, Lisa, that are we going to switch to renditions when you move to ProjectWise? I know that's a feature that ProjectWise allows you to do. Is that something that NCDOT is going to support or work towards?
Yeah, we are going to set up that, get that supported. It's on a long list to set up, but it's in the process.
Excellent. Thanks, Kyle.
And then Jeff, I'll go to some of the preset questions that you had, and I think one of the questions that Jeff wanted to know was, are there any private engineering firms that have set up a managed 10.09 workspace for NCDOT projects yet, and how's that been going, or how's that been working, and have you broke it out in different disciplines, or have you just been using one workspace for everyone?
And what we may do too, Brian, like I said, again, is like that list of questions. I know we kind of have those for the industry. We may just post them up in the chat or something, or just put them out there. Again, if they don't have it today, if they want to respond to it, either to our email address or something like that, we're just looking for input. Because we kind of came with a bunch of questions ourselves for the industry. So we provided that to NCLUG. I'm trying to figure out that it may not be applicable
Jeff,
during this
like,
conversation.
we can send it out to all the attendees from the week. We'll probably compile a master list and maybe just some survey questions like that.
That'd be great. I mean, that's exactly, we're just kind of looking to get that dialogue going, because we are curious, and it gives us the opportunity to speak with everyone very quickly. So that'd be great.
Well, I guess one question I had, and I've had this with a few units, I guess, you know, we've had the talk of moving to getting quantities from the model. You know, that's something that Open Roads allows. I guess, what confidence does DOT need to have in that, you know, utility before they're ready to move forward with it and get rid of like the quantity sheets, or will we be doing kind of like a back check with quantity sheets and pulling it from the model? I'm assuming we'll kind of have a parallel process for a while, but I guess what's the internal time frame or thinking in regards to that? And that may vary per unit.
Yeah, for us, that, you know, that's a high priority for us. Talking with Roger Cluckman, he's trying to get rid of the calculation quantity sheets, and it all hinges on the 1010 release of expanded capability of item types. You can have more than one item types per feature definition in 1010, and a lot of pay items, a lot of automations is going to be integrated with item types. The you know, the long range goal that we see is integrating it fully with AWP, the Astorware pre-construction. You know, just put the XML file out into AWP of our project is there goes up project costs. That's a long-term goal with them, and we still got a lot of work to do, but it starts with the intent, I think, for roadway, for us to do our project cost estimates.
Thank you for that, Oak. And Brian, to your point, obviously, it will be probably some side-by-side work for a while, but to Oak's point, that is one of the things we are trying to work towards, but we've got a ways to go.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions from anybody or anything they want to talk about? I'll open it up.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that, Brian, and thank you everyone again for attending us this afternoon. I know it's been a long week, and Patty, I think that's a great idea for some of those questions that we emailed to Brian. Maybe we could put them in a kind of a poll format, send it out. We'd just be curious to see what input we get back from the industry as a whole. So that'd be great, Patty. And
we can definitely do that.
Great. And Oak, I see you got your screen up.
Yeah,
he's doing a demo.
Well, no, just to show what Michael Trotter was alluding to with AutoTurn. So we do have AutoTurn, Taurus, Nexus, NCDOT, the guide sign from TransSoft Solution hooked up here. And I think I already loaded, but I can load again. AutoTurn here. And like Michael was saying, I have AutoTurn installed in the right, C program data, program files directory, and this comes up, and it's a good, just a introduction to AutoTurn, and you can go through the, the exercise and everything, but you don't see the tools until you change the workflow here. So the workflow is under drawing, and here's AutoTurn tab here. So here's all your regular AutoTurn stuff. So that's the deal with AutoTurn. And while we at it,
I bet a lot of people didn't know that. So that's a good point.
Yeah, there's a lot of tools in NCDOT workflow here that maybe we can spend a little bit of time. But one of my things is the check workspace tool here. So you can check what version of the workspace that I have installed here. I'm doing 7.3, the latest here. Also, it tells you what open rows version so it's 2020 R3 here. So that's a good way to check the ORD version you're running and what workspace this file is using. Here's some things that you can filter out what unit levels, because if you use NCDOT all like Michael Trotter, then you find it loads everybody's cell libraries, so you can parse out different libraries and labels and everything else here. Even DGN libraries, levels, you just want to see, roadway levels, you just want to see hydro levels, you can do that here. So you got AutoTurn here, so that's good. The conversion to, and that's for most of the CAD admins. Steve Atkinson wrote this for converting V8 cells to ORD, so that's a good thing. One map still works. And Emory in location survey added the property thing here, which is very impressive. You get the image and property lines here. So yeah, that's a good overall workflow, the NCDOT workflow ribbon here. But yeah, you're drawing anytime you load guide sign or AutoTurn or Taurus or any of that program here, it comes up in the drawing workflow here. That's a tab. And just from the roadways perspective, the updates that I wish I could have done on Monday if I if I wasn't on vacation the week before that. Let's just do, most of our templates now are lane based, so our template libraries here, and we could definitely do some talking points around the roadway templates and so forth. But we have plenty of templates, and we're looking at auxiliary lanes and so forth. But you find out these are all, lane based. So you got 4 lanes, 5 lanes, or whatever. That's a change from what we used to do with the templates in V8s. So a lot of change, and as I was asking Walter in signing yesterday, yeah, we produce a lot of these pavement markings in the 3D model, and that's not our bread and butter in roadway, but we do anticipate some kind of involvement with them. And can we get a quick quantity just from what the model we produce? I mean, you know, um, and it's going to draw your payment markings for you. Can we not just hook that up to an item type that says here's the payment markings quantities for your project and be done with? Also, too, as Dean Sars mentioned, the change, what we're doing now, we are letting our template draw in these traditional DSN elements. So like your paved shoulder line, your edge of travel way, and all this is generated in 2D by your template. So I don't go into my DSN file, start copying parallel things anymore. These are done for me by my templates. So I don't need to do much of the DSN work that I traditionally do with SS2. And that is some of the hope that we plan to do with our new, more advanced, but less complicated templates.
All right, we do have one question from, I'm going to try to say Ashley Kronstedt about what's the expectations for signing and sealing the model in the future, and if there's anything in the interim that we're working through to transition challenges.
That is an excellent question, and that is one we're certainly asking ourselves. So working with NC Bells, actually one of our former NCDOT staff, Brenda Moore, that was running the roadway design unit, she is now working with NC Bells as well. But in working with them, trying to understand what that may look like in the years ahead as far as sealing models, and what that may actually entail. My best understanding at this point as they work towards options is kind of a summary of items on a obviously flat 2D type document that basically lists out pieces of the model that we're going to seal. That like this piece is an engineered design, this is an engineered design versus something that may just be close or an aesthetic or a rendered model that may not be worthy of sealing those plans. If it is just a model we're letting, kind of what is that summary document that can lay out what are the components that the engineer is sealing versus the other ones. But they're working through that conversation as we speak, is my understanding. But that's just my general knowledge of that. But we're trying to figure out the same thing and what those transitions may look like in the years ahead. We don't know.
All right, well, I'll say this is the last call for any questions, and then if we don't have any more, we'll call an end to the session and thank everybody. So I'll give you all about 10 more seconds for somebody to get one more question in, and then we'll watch what Oak's doing in the meantime and go from there.
We're excited about the new custom line styles. We use that on the mass compliant guardrail in terminators or in units now. We're, Dre just put out the plan geometry, and JJ with the detailed modeling modules explain how to place the guardrail in the end units now using custom 3D line styles. So we're excited to explore that, because I never liked the V8 guardrail. Was one solid piece all the way through here. Is so.
I was noticing that.
Yeah, it's pretty slick, I think.
It is pretty slick.
It's a more cleaner rendition of our guardrail. Notice in our template we don't include that as part of the template anymore.
All right, it's
yeah,
that
so
linear template now.
No, it's just a linear feature definition.
Feature definition.
Yeah, yeah. So all our template doesn't have the guardrail component built into them like in the past. So
I think it does still signal you that you need guardrail, right?
Yeah. So yeah, the thing about that is we do have a flag. If I can pull up my cross section here too. Plan 2D. Yeah, we do the design workflow, and because we are, very there's some of the paradigm thing. I know that's a cliche now that we are starting to talk about paradigm shifts, but some of the things that a major change like this is only implemented with ORD. We do have, since the guardrail themselves are not with the template itself. You see these flags here. So we are flagging our engineer says this field height slope warrants a guardrail. So that's a permanent flag, but it's not plotted out. It'll let our reviewer know in-house that this situation warrants guardrail, and we put a red flag for required and a yellow flag for desired. Guardrail warrants, and it's up to the engineer. He wants to place the guardrail like I do here, and then widen the shoulder 3 foot from this face here to do that, or some sub-regional tier project, it may warrants it, but you don't necessarily place it. We give the engineer the option, but all the flag is just going to tell you it warrants some kind of a desired or required guardrail there.
Right. So we do widen the shoulder, in the template instead of it doing it automatically like before.
Yeah, that's a good perceptive comment there, Brian. The design is the template will not automatically do this for you. The template will only notify you with the flag. If it says this is guardrail warrant, it's up to the engineer to place the guardrail and widen the shoulder.
Right.
That is the design intent of the new way.
Another one of those paradigm shifts.
Yes.
For the better.
It is.
I think
it offers a lot. More control to our engineer now. I mean,
right.
Before, we always get service calls is how do I disable?
Yeah.
I have a sub-regional tier project. How do I disable this thing that's automatically widened and place guardrail on there for me? You could do it.
Yeah. I've probably been one of those calls. Yeah.
Oak, we did get one question. Are these custom line styles that NCDOT is creating, or are these Bentley provided line styles?
Yeah. So we did cannibalize some of them, some of those. So these end units, if you can see, this is actually the end unit is a custom line style. But the this is our traditional 2D one. So
well, when you say custom, is that you mean custom like as in DOT made it, or?
No. So the 3D, all 3D ones were created in Bentley workspace, and we had to customize it because they don't use the same color table. So theirs came out to be like metal gray, where ours is pink in North Carolina because the difference in color table. So we had to recreate them in certain ways. And Gray at Moffitt and Nickel just did some changes to the Terminator, where they did exactly the 61 foot of TL3 Terminators in 3D, but when we do our computations, it's 50 foot. So he kind of modified the cell. They provide us the cell, and this is an important subject there, that they have not, Bentley have not investigated the line style terminator. They provided the cell, and we just took it a step further. They provide us the 3D cell. We just turned that into a 3D custom line style. And it makes it a lot easier to place them as a line style. I put 50 foot, 25:1 ratio flare on them. So you have a lot more control, and it's all one line style. So to answer your question, yes, basically everything was provided by Bentley, but we had to do something else to make it fit into our workflow.
Which most people knows that, but everyone might not know it. That your 3D model is actually being created as you do that, as you place it in the 2D, right? So everybody don't have to panic.
Yeah.
They got to go in there and try to create this in 3D. The model's being created as you go.
Yeah, the plan geometry training module and the intermediate training module goes over placing these guardrail, and we only place guardrail in the 2D view. This stuff takes care of it automatically.
Right.
So
some people may be panicking and said, "Oh, I got to draw that."
No. You only do this once, and in the training manual, you do it in the 2D, because I don't know how to do this. I'm jealous of photogrammetry and survey because they work in 3D. I don't know how to do that. I let my model in the computer do the 3D and the cross section and everything else. I just work here. I don't worry about this. This is automatic here. This and that is automatic. I just work in here.
It's probably a big sigh of relief just now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's a paradigm shift too, because we're not used to having 2D and 3D in the same file. We're used to having separate files. So that's it's by now it's little things, but just to someone who's just coming into ORD, that's quite a shift to where to have 2D and 3D at the same time. And you're using all the multiple views, which work really well now.
Michael Trotter said it best. I didn't catch the first half, but I caught the tail end of it. It's now that you see what you're designing. Before, as a Geopack user, I was trying to place these three views, this plane, profile, and cross section, piece it all together in my mind, what they look like. But now I could look at the 3D and say, hey, that's that. I don't have to imagine anything. It's there, it is what it is there.
It's there.
Yep.
And I think it's outstanding. I think it's. I don't know how we did it any other way. We had to use a lot of imagination before, a lot of shifting back between files and referencing files.
And we're excited. We do, we have right-of-way markers, monuments now that's in 3D, and Grace got a manual out in placing like our right-of-way markers and alignments and so forth. You can see here, this, I only place this using the 2D tube, the geometry tube. And this right-of-way marker, is this in 3D. I don't place it in 3D. It's here in 3D, where automatically when I place this marker in the plan view. And I do have some option here, like here, I'll place it at 1 foot elevation difference here. I can, the biggest thing about ORD is once you place certain things, like we talked about yesterday in our meeting, is you never want to delete and recreate it. You can change a lot of this stuff. Like here, I place it at a 1 foot vertical offset. Well, suppose I made a mistake. I said, well, I should have made it flush to the ground. Just go into properties and change that difference there. See how that monument moved down there. So I did this in my 2D plan view. It affects the 3D there. So so a lot of these concepts like this here is really need to be stressed in our training module, that once you place certain things like your radius of your curve or 3-center curve or 2 simple curve, don't delete it if you change your mind. Just edit the properties. You can add, like one of our exercise that Gray's working on, he's talking about, at a intersection, you just place a simple curve, 25 foot, 50 foot, or whatever, and then come back and do your 3-center curve if you wanted to after you do auto turn. So you never delete anything. You just modify what you have and work with it there.
Exactly right. Everybody's used to having properties being mostly visual, changing the way things look and, line types. But, with ORD, it takes a whole different perspective on properties. There's a lot more to properties now.
Yeah. And annotation skill.
Yeah.
There was a question about bringing in the survey file and whether you should start in a 2D or 3D file.
Yeah.
The seed files are still going to be set up just as a 2D space, and then when you add the surface, it'll create the 3D. Or are you going to set it up as having both in it already?
Yeah, actually.
Survey is 3D.
Survey is pure 3D. No.
Yeah.
It has no 2D no 2D model in the survey one.
It does. It does. What you start out with 3D using a 3D seed. I think Emery mentioned this. Is they did in this 3D where they kind of work opposite of us. They kind of start in 3D and then there's a 2D model they create for like property lines and so forth.
Right.
Yeah, you're correct, Oak.
So yeah, so they start out in 3D and they had to do it.
Well, and Gary, is your question for how surveys bringing it in, or how I'm assuming if you're in roadway, how you bring in the survey file?
Now we've done it different ways. I mean, we brought it in on a TD, we brought it in on 3D. But I was wondering if you bring it in on 2D and start drawing on it, if it's going to create, is it going to create the 3D automatically, like when you do your, how you do your right click and your view controls, we can do the 2D and 3D. It's going to automatically make it in 3D anyway, right?
Yeah, Oak. My understanding is you guys will, when you start your design, you'll start with a 2D file, reference our 3D, and work from that. Isn't that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct.
That's correct. Yeah, it creates a 3D for us when we reference your 3D file. Even if we start in a 2D, it'll create a 3D model.
Okay.
Yes, I guess that's what I'm used to, is like you just start with the 2D. Once you add a 3D element, it creates it. So did that answer your question, Gary?
No,
and really,
I guess it don't really matter then, does it?
You can go back and forth. You can start with a 3D and create a 2D, or get the 2D, and when you reference the 3D in, it creates a 3D model. So you can. Not like before, it does it. Other if you're bringing in a 10, for importing a 10 in from an old GeoPack or inroads DTM, you want to be in a 3D file.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Sorry about that. My mic just went out on me. But yeah, any surveying workflow, you probably need to do the 3D seed. Any design workflow, you start out with 2D, and then it automatically creates the 3D default model, and it references to that automatically when you introduce a terrain model in that 2D file or a profile to your horizontal alignment. That's when it automatically generates that default 3D.
Usually you have to make it active for it to do it right.
Yeah, that's true. You can reference it like your existing terrain model boundary, and you make that boundary active in that 2D model. It automatically creates the default 3D and automatically reference that to your 2D model.
You'd be surprised how many questions I had about that.
Yeah, and that was one concept that we felt we need to stress over and over again in our training module. Just how does that default 3D gets created in the 2D file?
All right. Like I referenced my 3D model in, but I don't have a 3D model, so no, you didn't make it active.
Yeah.
It's a simple thing, but you'd be surprised how many support calls you get on that.
Yeah. And depending on if it's the 2D view or the 3D view, you have different sets of reference files. So just because you reference one file in a 2D view doesn't necessarily mean it's going to show up in 3D and vice versa.
Correct. It's almost like two separate models.
Yeah, pretty much two models,
but they
even,
they
can even look at it two different files.
Well, and one thing to think about, I guess, as we start moving forward, both with ProjectWise and ORD, like if you get a new updated surface and that surface isn't named the same, you're gonna have to reattach all your set it active again for your models because it's gonna be looking for the old surface names. So as we start to get updates, it's not gonna be as easy as just replacing it in the folder like we used to, and everything's still coming in.
That's a biggie.
That's what, yeah, that's one of the things that we've discussed, especially if we update an existing terrain model. In ProjectWise, we're going to need a little bit of guidance in that. So when we do that, we just replace it in that same model, and no one should have to make any changes. But again, I hope that's easier than it sounds. Right now, I scratch my head a little bit on that.
So as long as you call it, like if you call the terrain the same name, or you like append the existing terrain in that file, it'll still reference it. But if you make like a new terrain from your DTM, like a new point cloud or something, and give it, like existing surface 2 instead of existing surface 1, it's gonna like not recognize it for our models when we bring it back in. On ProjectWise, as long as you replace the file, like use the replace tool, or export it out and then like import it back in as a change or some workaround like that, it'll work. But if you just like delete it or put a new file up there, then it breaks the link that we have in ProjectWise. So that's where you have to get tricky, because like if you were to delete the file and then put a new one up there like you would normal Windows workspace, it won't work anymore. Like it won't still reference in the way ProjectWise does it, because it's looking for like a reference, a file number, not like a location and name.
Right. Well, our biggest thing is we just need to be sure everybody has the guidance to understand that.
All right.
Yes, I think that'll be a big change.
Right. Now I've made that mistake myself, so I think everyone will when they first go through it. It's a learning curve. But everyone's getting on it now, so that we can document a lot of this stuff, so everyone don't make the same mistakes that we did in the past.
With that, Brian, is there something, and if anybody has an idea or suggestion, a place on NCLUG's website or something that people could put troubleshooting tips and tricks that they've learned? I mean, I don't know if that's something everybody's interested. I know it takes time and whatnot, but if somebody's got a good idea and that's something they think we could help with, we'd love to hear the suggestion or notes.
Yeah, it's definitely a good idea. I've actually brought that up to Bentley. Why don't they publish their support calls and answers in some kind of format? I don't get very much response from that.
No, they don't like that idea. That's been brought up.
They don't like that idea.
No, but there is the community's webpage. You guys can go up on and post things you learn there, and there's other people that do the same.
You're exactly correct. There's YouTube, and there's, but it's sometimes it's just a simple question or just a simple click of a button or something. just like we was talking about in Project Wise with the, with DTM, or, make sure you name it the same, just that procedure where you don't make that same mistake. Some of the lessons learned, I know they have a lessons learned thing. And I might be a good avenue to go down to have a lessons learned. Who would track that and how we would format that, we'd have to talk about.
All right, I think we're out of questions at the moment. So, and if we'll call an official end to the meeting to let people off. But if anybody wants to stay on and just continue talking, feel free. We'll leave it open. But I guess Jeff, if you want to say anything to close out, since we're coming up on we've passed the 1 o'clock time frame, I'll turn it back over to you.
No, like I said, not much else to say. It's been a fantastic week. Just thank you to NCLUG. Thank you to all the participants, and thank you certainly to all the NCDOT staff that prepared for these presentations. Really had a great week. Thank you.
Oh, do you have anything else you want to show? There's still quite a few people on if you want to. And we may, he's still there, sort of.
Yeah, I've got to drop off, but Brian, I'll let you be the ringleader for the rest of the after party.
No problem.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here as long as you guys need me. I'm just playing around with some of the sheeting stuff.
And just for those listening, I guess NCLUG, I think we're looking at hosting some future events too coming up. I think one Bentley's doing, but I think in the near future, maybe we're going to have Oak back and just go over some things. Is that right, Oak? Maybe we'll have you back in another month or so to do a presentation. I guess maybe we got to work that out.
Yeah, we're talking about the lunch and learn
right.
Yeah, early in the year. Yeah, just one simple topic. We're looking at some of the stuff in development, like placing north arrow sheeting. Super elevations, one topic, one discussion, and getting feedbacks on it. Just, once a month, lunch and learn type of deal.
So I was doing a lot of training with Bentley, but Oak on the sheeting. So is each department going to be responsible for creating their own sheets?
The idea is, we have a common sheet border, and I can show it to you here. We have one common sheet border that all or most NCDOT units share. So this is the one common sheet border, and I think each unit will have a zone. We call them the zones here to put in their information. Like roadway will put in the seal blocks for roadway and hydraulic engineer seals here. Some construction right-of-way revision notes here, area here. And the firms will put in their logos here somewhere. I think I have a example work set of that somewhere. Let me check a look. It's on my C drive, and this may be a good, like, if you guys haven't worked with the workspace before, notice these desktop icons, and we're in the non-managed workspace. We do have a lot of freedom compared to the project-wise managed workspace, of where we store our projects in our DGN files. So right now I'm switching from the training in our workspace to the work sets that is in our on our C drives, and it could be stored in an R drive or some network server where you store your project DGN. But anytime there's a chance you get a DGN outside Project Wise, you're going to need the non-managed workspace to work with. So that example of a work set that we kind of mocked up. It says, this is how we really want the roadway sheets to be created and still share the common with everybody, like traffic control, location surveys. Which project was that? B, 156. Room sheets. So, and Dean Saris from Stantec did a tremendous job in documenting how all the working pieces comes together when we work together with the NCD, what all the NCDOT units. They want that same clip boundary, and but they do want to change like the zone in the title blocks for their unit needs and so forth. So I kind of mocked up something here, and we use kind of without permission KCA's logo and how I think we should work. So here is something we mocked up. It says, you see there's a common here that we do place, but we do, offer some of this, like the new things here. We do have the state of North Carolina with the county highlighted here on our sheets. The seal blocks, like I say, for roadway engineers and hydraulic engineers here. And then we can put a place for the firms to put the logo here if they need to. And this is all reference. And then if you do plotting, I know there was a question of plotting earlier, and let me see if I remember how to do this. So I'm going to do microstation print, just like there, and it's automatically should load my RD PDF plot configuration here. So everything's set here, even the pin table, the MS Print pin table. If you have a older design script, you can touch it here. I was mentioned before, but here's, and we're plotting from a sheet. We're not plotting from a fence or in the view or any of that stuff. We're just plotting from a fence. We can print to file, and we can put it right here. And our pin table is is pretty basic. It's not as very elaborate as our old design scripts. So it's a continued work in progress, but I think we got it to the point where we think it's working the way it has VR intended to work.
A lot of us, getting used to sheets and things of that nature. So, we're just not been used to that in the Geopack world. So that's it's a small thing, but it's definitely a workflow shift. Using a sheet to control your plotting versus a fence.
Yeah, I think it's more
also that those sheets are one-to-one.
Yeah, and that's another thing that, and we recently changed this in our configuration to read out the one-to-one instead of like 1 inch equals 0.083 something.
Right.
So a lot of our users says, "What is this?"
Yeah,
so we made inches to inches. So you're printing everything one-to-one.
Right.
And you can see how we kind of dithered the background. I know Emery and Faith are really proud of their
That's
base
good.
mapping stuff.
Wow,
But we
that's
kind
good.
of say, forget about your art in roadway design. We're just gonna make that really light. Yeah. So sorry about that, guys. So you can see we did the photogrammetry topo stuff and highlight the design stuff.
So Oak, are there any talks in making the plans color since most deliverables now are PDFs?
Yeah, there have been talks about that since Brian Edwards at CAT Services. Why not print color PDFs, not
Right.
apply a pen table to them? And it's a good idea, but I think the model iModel space will take care of that. I'm not creating PDF for you to look at. I'm creating an iModel each sheet. So
Right.
I think it will be in color, but it'll be an iModel instead of
iModel.
PDF format.
Yeah, they're saying they're having. I was talking to Bentley this week. They're talking to people about the iModel. It's a hard sell because most of those QC folks and people are reviewing plans and things of that nature are older folks that's been around for a while, and getting them to go and look at an iModel is going to be a challenge. The younger folks coming along, the younger generation coming along, it's probably going to become second nature to them in the future. But they're talking to people, but they're having some issues.
Yeah. So this was the scale here. This usually trip people up. It used to read 0.08 or something like that, but just put it at a 1-to-1 scale.
Yeah. Well, it was 1 foot equals 1 inch equals 1 foot before the 0833. But yeah, just do 1-to-1.
Yeah. So it's all, this print thing, we kind of like it more and more as we work with it to compare the iPlot, all this stuff. Soon you can see when I bring this up, my roadway configurations are loaded, my drivers loaded, the paper size, scale and everything, even my pen table, So
you're just ready to go. Yeah, you're ready to go. Just hit print and you're ready to go.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Takes all the thinking out of it. You're just ready to print a sheet.
And then what are you using print organizer?
Yeah, you can use print organizer. Yes, it's the sheet index thing is really important. Integration with print organizer compared to what we were using iPlot organizer. So let me see sheet index here. You can see in this sheet index, there's plans for, a folder for roadway, location surveys, traffic control. This is project specific. So sheet index right now is project specific. That means anybody working for that project has read and write access to this index of sheets here. And, roadway will have one, location surveys, traffic control, structure, whoever wants to work in the work set, DGNWS. And this is all controlled from the DGNWS file here. And print organizer is one of these guys that's in this ribbon here somewhere.
Oh no,
right there. Open print organizer. So, you can store this print set in print organizer.
All right. And it does it more automatically than it used to. It's not as much setup as it was before using print organizer. It sets a lot of things up for you.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys have.
Yeah, we
help that process. Yeah.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work, and there's still a lot of work with printing, the whole configuration, the drivers, the pen table. That's new to us because we're traditionally iPlot design script folks. But since the industry and the firms were saying, that iPlot stuff costs a little bit more, why not just develop print? It's free. So a lot of our firms use print, and they have to do all kind of, things, modification, turning on levels override or whatever, make it all black and white before they print. Why just not develop print, MS print with the correct pin table already applied?
I just watched a ProjectWise meeting yesterday on printing from ProjectWise. It's incredible. And their capabilities now, I don't know actually how you do them all, but you literally go through all our projects and print out the same sheet from every project to compare. So I think you're going to start to see, I mean, print plot's fine for dumping outside of things, but I think once you really get into ProjectWise and see what printing can do, I mean, simple things like you want to see all the reference files from sheets 3, 12, and 13. It will pull those up and print them for you. So there's a huge number of enhancements, I think, in ProjectWise that are going to bear a lot of looking at moving forward. So
Yeah,
I wouldn't sell out the iPlot stuff quite yet.
Yeah, it was. My thinking is always going to be integrated. I mean, whatever you do, iPlot, you can do a print, vice versa. So I think keeping that in mind, yeah, you're going to have differences, but I don't think we want to develop dual print tables and plot.
Well, yeah, I don't think you'll have to. I think one will work for the other pretty much. And I wouldn't be surprised relatively soon if you see the print manager called iPlot Print or ProjectWise Print inside of MicroStation. Because the capabilities were pretty impressive, particularly if you're doing PDFs and being able to render exactly what you want when you want it from the existing files. Even beyond what you're seeing with the indexing of sheets, I mean, you can do it literally by level. Everything that had, if it's in a MicroStation file, then you can basically search on it and print. So, yeah, it looks like there's some impressive capabilities moving forward, particularly when you get into the, Patty brought up color, but, when you get into reviewing plans, reviewers could actually literally pick up a PDF and just see, okay, I want to see all the guardrail in every file and I want it printed. If you start to think about that in a time-saving methodology or even a Q&A methodology, it becomes really impressive for people that don't, in general, want to search through a model or a set of plan sheets, particularly on a big project, to find all that stuff. So it'll be interesting plotting moving forward there, I think, as ProjectWise becomes that standard. But now, like you say, outside with the unmanaged workspace, so to speak, on a machine, print plot's going to be the only real way to do that.
I mean, iPlot is still there. I mean, it's still there. We still can use it in ORD. And like I said, you can piggyback design scripts to pin tables and vice versa between the two systems, between iPlot and print. It's just, it kind of flow. I mean, whether it's ProjectWise versus non-ProjectWise. In the non-ProjectWise where it kind of flows naturally with DGNWS sheet index and print organizer, whereas in ProjectWise it flows more naturally with iPlot. But those things I think is compatible. There you can go from one system to the other without too much loss in functionality. It's my thinking. Yeah, I may be wrong on that, but that is something we shouldn't have to be worried about as a user. If there is something major, a barricade between the two systems, then that's something we need to let Bentley know. But I think, just working outside, it flows better with sheet indexing and print. Inside project-wise, it flows better with, iPlot and iPlot Organizer and design scripts. But my thinking is those two systems are always compatible, backward compatible with each other. And we do have a hearing map being developed by Von Melton, Robert Garrett for us, and he's creating those things outside the design script. They're all pin tables.
I'm sorry, I was muted. So Randy, did they talk about ProjectWise Drive and the training? Who's on any of the ProjectWise?
Actually, we were trying to get ProjectWise Drive to work this morning. It didn't go too well. I think it's on. I really think it's an issue with security on Drive for us.
Right.
Is why it's not accessing it, because it seems to install and it seems to want to work, but it just doesn't. So because you can't get the data source. But yeah, I think that'll be extremely useful moving forward. I mean, it's the 365 stuff seems to work, and actually
Right.
it's slick. And particularly, I think if you move into the workflow type thing where you've got the revisions and orders and all
Right.
that kind of stuff, I think that can be a boon moving forward. Though it will take a good bit of effort, time before that type of workflow gets installed in our system, so to speak. But the way it looks, moving forward with fewer and fewer people and more and more projects, that's probably going to be the only way one's going to be able to handle it.
Right.
But it's still a ways off. But if we can get the drive working, I think that'll be a boon.
Well, yeah. I mean, Bentley's definitely pushing it. And the Project 365 or our training. Our training we're doing with them is in Project 365. So they're promoting that.
Yeah, I think the 365 is, will work well. Well, at least I hope it'll work well. But I mean, since we're moving to, we're on 365 anyway for Word and all those things, it's just a nature.
Right.
And then if you can get all that to work with Teams, then it becomes a lot more interactive type design environment for everybody involved, or at least it's a lot more collaborative than we now have. I think everybody talks about collaborative and design environments, but in reality, we still have just few individuals doing all the work, and they're not really, if they talk to each other after the fact, at which time, it's too late to do much about things. Whereas, if you can get people used to that type of workflow, you can catch a lot of things before it ever happens, type thing, and hopefully save time and money now.
Oh yeah, or most consultants are using Teams. As for because if you work for big companies, we got people all over the place working all different times, and you just couldn't do it without it. I mean, there's no other way.
Yeah.
Some of this stuff, this is.
We'll see. I mean, the savings of money, I'm not so sure about, just because
No,
anybody's going to take less money for doing what they're doing, regardless if they can do it quicker. But it would make for a much nicer, smoother process, I think.
Because every time you look at this stuff, there's always this licensing thing at the bottom.
Oh yeah, well, you always got to remember Bentley's in the business.
And they're
Everybody
making
else is just sell
even more.
soft.
Yeah, even more in the business of making money now since they're
But I
stock.
mean, you know, this design stuff is just an end to a means. It's to sell software. It's not.
Yeah,
And you've
Just so y'all know, I am still recording.
you've always got to
we're
remember.
fine with that.
Okay.
Doesn't bother me any.
Don't bother me any now. Well, I'm just looking at the their web page. It says, be sure to get your license.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's on the web. Yes. Yeah, so.
Yeah, and I think you'll see that more and more since they're quote unquote public now.
Yeah.
Results will matter. They'll have to do more reporting than they used to, so that'll be, or they'll have to do more specific reporting than they used to. Bentley's always been pretty good about their quote unquote stockholder reporting, but they were never real detailed in it, which was probably a smart move.
I even think you have to get, don't you have for the iModel, you can create an iModel, but for all the tools and the software that you use to review it, don't you have to have a license for that?
Oh, I'm sure you do. The problem I think with iModel is, you got PDF. Why do you want, who wants another
I
form
guess it's so they can
test
see
it?
the 3D model for someone who's not ORD proficient. So they got these very simple tools that you can get quantities and stuff off an iModel, and it's a 3D model, so it's a viewer. Instead of looking at 2D plans, it's just another 3D check.
Yeah, I mean that's just one more piece of software that I think.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
I think eventually people are going to get tired of one more piece of software. I've got a DGen model. Why can't we just use it?
Well, like I say again, most of these QC guys are, they don't even know how to open up ORD, much less get to the model. So,
well, that's true. I mean, but I'm not sure that the younger people know much more about it either because they don't have any idea what they're looking at.
well, they tried the 3D PDF, but that didn't catch on too well. So,
well, that just 3D didn't catch. I mean, it's funny. We're discussing maybe using 3D, and Bentley's already off to 4 and 5D. Like,
oh yeah,
we just barely got 2D down pat. Let's
we
let's
were
get
just
the
doing
next
that.
D.
Exactly. We was just doing that advanced training. They're already talking about AI, and they're using some of that and all these different technologies that are well beyond what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
pretty
somebody
amazing.
has to be out in front, but I think you ought to make sure the basics are taken care of.
And and they even admitted, before most of this stuff be implemented, we'd probably all be retired or some of us long gone. So, but they are looking at it. I mean,
yeah, I mean the stuff's out there. There's no doubt about it, and adding time on top of design is a whole another. But it does. Time is money for particularly a construction project.
well, yeah, definitely to anything you can save in construction is engineering is just a small piece of the pie.
Yeah, there's not enough.
Construction is where the money savings there. Anything you can get 3D models. I don't know if everybody's aware, but all these contractors, they take basically 2D PDFs or plots and create 3D models out of them already. Anybody's working on design build projects, they know that. But it's amazing. They create their own models, and they've been doing models for years. They just don't trust our models, but even though they create their models from our plans, so that's what I argued with them. It's like, well, you're taking our stuff to create your models, but they do have these checks and things of that nature. So,
it's also a lot like visualization. We've had extremely good visualization tools for a long time, yet nobody ever uses them.
Right. Because nobody required them, so they weren't going to spend the time and effort to.
Right.
But now everybody wants them now, so it's the whole workflow change.
I mean, I remember 12, 20, almost 30 years ago, people like Stone and Webster, they had to spend tens of thousands of dollars to do visualization just to bid a major industrial project like a petrochemical plant or something like that.
Hey, can I speak with Carmen Dunn? Hey, Carmen, this is Patty Gordon.
Hey, Patty. You're definitely not muted.
Am I on?
Yeah, you're on.
Hold on one second.
Might be a private conversation.
She's not remembering she's recording still.
That's right. You're still recording.
That's right. I'm muting myself now.
There's one thing I do want to just point out when we're creating plan sheets. How do you get the north arrow with the right NAD designation on there onto your plan sheet? You would do it with the create drawing dialog box, and under annotation group here, you will pick your desired north arrow with the NAD designation. Yeah. Like here, I'll pick 83, 2007, create that, and then that north arrow shows up here. So that's a quick, for the folks that's not aware of it, that's where the north arrow selection comes from.
That's different.
Yeah, and please test out these preset drawing seeds here for the plans. I really like this new dual plan here. Remember, if you have a bridge project that has 1.5 sheets, you don't necessarily need to do 2 sheets.
Yeah.
So you can do plan, and profile. Check that out. Your cross section, your profile here.
That's the way it always works with those bridge replacement jobs. You always have most of it on there, and just a little bit of it slides off.
Yeah.
It's like, really, I got to do a whole nother sheet for 100 feet.
And there's, a full complementary of cross sections, sheet drawing seeds. So check out all these pre-made drawing seeds, depending on plan profile. Oh, and it's going to be covered in a sheeting module in a way.
Right. But they're pretty straightforward. I mean, they're it's not. I see it pretty straightforward. Some of my issues more is not creating the sheets. I think that's pretty straightforward, and you just gotta make sure you pick the right buttons. But it's once the sheets are created, that's when the fun begins.
And it's also,
because a whole different process. It takes like a snapshot of the plan, and turn level. It creates a clip and rotates. There's always stuff we used to do manually, but it takes a clip and rotate of that sheet boundary and creates a model file, and then it creates a sheet file from that model file. So, which is a clip from the sheet layout file that you've laid your sheets out on. So it's just a different process. It's what we've done before, but it's the software is doing a lot of that for us. But manipulating some of that stuff when it doesn't work exactly right can be very interesting.
And a lot of folks are not aware of the manage little icon that's on the bottom corner of these tools.
Mm-hmm.
So you click on here, you can manage your name boundaries.
Right.
You don't have to recreate them. When I first started using ORD, I started deleting these things and redoing them. And it doesn't make sense to me to delete them. I already created them. I just need to manage them.
I don't know how Ben can make that little button better. I keep telling people, hit the little button beside the name. So they're hitting the name boundary text, not hitting that little button. That's a really small button. And it's actually a very important button. And one's named name boundary and the other one's named boundaries. So that's very confusing too.
Yeah. A lot of these have the manage, like this tool set.
Yeah, the manage tool, yeah.
Yeah, this is the text styles, manage your dialog box.
It could make that little button just a little bit bigger. Maybe put manage beside it or underneath it or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But right now, obviously, to someone who's not experienced with ORD, they got no idea what that little button is. I didn't. He kept telling me to hit that little button beside name boundary. I said, "What button is this? That's just part of this ribbon, isn't it?" I mean, yeah. And then I hit it, and of course, it comes up. Yeah, but it's not right intuitive. It's not right there.
Yeah.
Maybe they can make that a pull down or something, with an arrow or something.
Oh,
It comes up and says manage boundaries or manage.
yeah. So when you said that, it brought up something. It's just, I never knew why until recently. Why this? Why a flyout in a regular toolbox? See, why do I ever use a flyout? Yeah. So what this is intended to do is bring up the toolbox here.
Yeah.
You do whatever you need to, move your cursor away from it, it goes away. So that's all what a flyout of the toolbox is.
That's a flyout.
Well, it's basically that old pop set stuff.
Yeah. It's like flyout.
Yeah, you don't have to double click out or close it.
Yeah.
It's what it's trying to do.
Wow.
So you're good.
How do you get that from flyout? I mean, that, yeah. Like I say, you would just have to click it and use it and see what it does to figure out what it does. You don't get it from, you definitely don't get it from the name.
Yeah. Yeah. It was confusing to me at first. I was trying to figure out what that is.
But if you use big references,
one day I used it and said, it just saved me a click of closing the dialog box. That's all it was.
Yeah, you see like the dock, where you used to, dock on the side and you hover over it and it pop out and then it would pop away and it would hide itself. Pin it or unpin it or.
Yeah. Well, anybody still with us, or do we need?
Still looks like you got a few. They're dropping like flies, though.
Yeah, they're dropping. Yeah,
it's Friday. It's getting close to.
Yeah, still got 23. Still got 23. Heck, back in the day, we was happy to have 23.
Well, just like, yeah.
Yeah, but we'd had to feed them too.
Now, where all 23 are actually paying attention or not, I don't know. They might just be logged on and not paying attention. So.
Yeah,
I'm sure some of them are probably listening.
Yeah, it's
some of them probably.
We're still listening. Some of us.
There you are. We just had to bring that up to see if anybody responded. Yeah.
Yeah. So just
this
a
is
little
where you
bit.
learn all the. This is where you learn all the good stuff.
So
yeah, that's where we hear all the rumors.
Yeah.
So for the guys that seen the workspace, the non-match workspace for the first time, we deal a lot of these desktop icons for now. And when we get 1010, all this will be gone. We don't need this for different units. But we still probably need some kind of work set IMP. And this input file on your desktop is controlling where are your project or the DGN files that you want to launch are located. So the first variable is more of a, where is it? Where is your work set stored? So my work sets, if this is on a server somewhere that you set up for your firm, like some firm may have a Q drive or T drive or whatever. This is where you set that variable. And then this second variable here tells you where is it. If you're using L0, which is the network, it uses this variable up top on the server. If you're using L1, it goes to your C drive, which I got now. L2 would go to your workspace where you do your training and the workspace admin is at. And L3 is a catch-all. So a workspace has a work set. A work set is a daughter of your workspace. So wherever you store your workspace, that's where the work sets are going to be located. That's Bentley default. Then in case somebody used NCDOT all and he just want to use roadway training, everything, we have a third tier of a variable that describes what unit training you want to do in case you use something like NCDOT or a combination of roadway hydraulics, and everything. I want to go do roadway training or geotech training or location survey training. You set it here. So this one input file has a lot of implication with how and where you stored your work set or your DGN file. So it's all controlled right here on your desktop with this work set IMP file. And I do want to mention OpenRail and OpenRows use the same workspace. So you do get, if you get, this here, they're part, OpenRail and OpenBridge is part of NCDOT. So NCDOT structure here, that's their workspace. And NCDOT Railroad, which they haven't done much to it, but there may be future plans to use OpenRail. But you get all this under NCDOT workspace umbrella configuration. So that's why I have the desktop icon here for OpenBridge and OpenRail and OpenBridge. And you have to use OBD. You can't use OBM directly now that, to open up a OBM file. Used to, you could just double click on the OBM and launch that file, but you have to go to this OBDX file. This OBDX container to be able to open like OBM file for that project. So here I have to, what that means is you have to get full license of OBD, which includes OBM and LEAP and all that sort of stuff. And and I don't know if the structures guys or the bridge guys know this, but they have the same set of tools as we do in ORD as you would use for civil geometry. Like any alignments, the work points they're talking about, roadway normally don't provide the work lines and work points and stuff. They generate that off our GPK traditionally. So what they can do in OBM is use the same alignment tool we use in ORD to create these work lines and work points from. If I can pull that file up. And you find a lot, like OpenRail has everything that OpenRows has, and OpenRows has everything OpenBridge has. So I think in that sequence there, OpenRail is actually the most powerful of all the platform. It has everything OpenRows and OpenBridge has. You can see here in OpenBridge Modeler, there's a silver tab here. And this is using their workspace, but you see they have the same geometry tools, horizontal, vertical tools as ORD. So they can generate those work lines at work point. Roadway doesn't need to go into that business. We've never been in that business, and I don't think we need to go with ORD, especially when OBM has that capability here. And they use the same, feature definition as we are. This must be read-only. Yeah. But yeah, they load their workspace just like we do. It's all part of NCDOT. Yeah. It just looks different. That's all it. But most of it is the same. I don't know why they wouldn't put where's the level thing? It should be right here somewhere. There it is. So these are SMU levels. So we know we're using SMU workspace along with NCDOT levels. So that would tell me they can use the same feature definition to write their own work lines and work points to do the dual bridges. Okay. Is there anybody still here?
We're down to about 20.
We're down to 19, but hey, we're still here.
Okay. Well, I think that's all I I wanted to show today. We definitely can do that with our lunch and learn in the coming months.
We
Just
get that
pick the
going.
top. Yeah.
We'll definitely get that going since the ORD launch is official, and
Yeah.
we just need to proceed forward. It's just the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing, Brian, is people need to start using it so that they'll have questions to actually ask.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know.
Watch this stuff and do it, but it's a whole nother thing to, well, wait a minute, that's not what happens on my machine type thing. So,
Right, exactly.
It can show
Of course,
wonderful things until everybody tries them. They just really don't.
I go to Bentley. I was on the phone with Bentley yesterday and support, and he said, "Oh, well, all that's fixed in 1010." I think that's their favorite response right now. All that's fixed in 1010. So.
Yeah, and they pulled it 30 minutes after they released it.
Yeah, because they broke the cross section annotation.
Yeah.
And
that's par for the software world.
Well, yeah, and then they were trying to figure out whether to just release another version or just do an update or whatever. So I guess it was easier just to post another version. But it's kind of interesting because everyone doesn't have download rights to Bentley, so I don't know if they keep that in mind or not. There's only a select number of people in each organization that actually has download privileges for software. As long as it updates automatically once it's installed in your machine, it just keeps updating, that's fine. But when they do a new release like that, we have to actually download it. You have to request it.
Yeah, I mean, they could always do like Microsoft does and make it automatically update and then watch the problems that arise. But
and one of the things when you install 1010, it's a side-by-side install. So, it sort of is, but like if you install 1010 and then go to ProjectWise, it thinks that's the most current version of the software. So you have to go into your programs and reselect the old 10.9 to make sure it don't pull up 1010. Of course, you get the box. It says it's going to convert it, so automatically that it's not picking the right one. But that was just something I experienced yesterday when I was putting it in there, that you have to go back and insert the 10.9 exe and make that open the software in that version. Open it. And use that version to open it. I'm like, I hate I just I just clicked on the file just like I normally do, and it came up and said, "Oh, you got to convert this file." It's like, no, I'm not wanting to convert the file. Then I looked at it and said it's going to 1010, so I knew exactly what it was. But while it is a side by side, it still goes out. ProjectWise still goes out and looks for the most current version. Because it assumes you want to use the most current version. But it does put all the stuff in separate folders and all that stuff. So,
somebody just asked you a question. You said you mentioned multiple types of features in the 1010 before. Does that replace the need for asset manager?
Yeah, asset manager. I am in the Innovation Council with Bentley on item types, and asset manager was created for the insufficient use of like civil object, like alignment name, alt station, offset. Now we can do that inside item types and feature definition. You started seeing asset manager slowly disappearing. So asset manager is going to be disappearing. The item type in pre-construction is going to be some kind of replacement for that. And doing in the other side of asset management is construction, which is Synchro. They're using Synchro for that type of managing assets.
Yeah, they're pushing
infrastructure.
Synchro.
Yeah. So yes, that's a good question. We don't necessarily have to use a lot of the asset manager add-ons like we did with 10.8, 10.9, in 10.10, because you can have multiple item types per feature definitions now. It handles a lot of the civil functions too.
Yeah, actually, I haven't used Synchro. I just know what they told us this week in training, and you can actually, you can quantify each item type. You can actually chop up a retaining wall into 5-foot, 10-foot sections, and or doing phase construction. You can, you have a lot more flexibility with Synchro to get staging quantities and things of that nature. If I say I haven't used that, that's a little spiel they're giving us.
Yeah, I mean, item type has been around for a while. It changed its name. It used to be tags, microstation tags. Then they call it item type plus, then some kind of other things. Then an asset manager to handle the civil side of microstation item types. But you started seeing it being integrated feature definitions and handling more civil stuff with item types. That asset manager is slowly disappearing. Talking with Dan Ahern and them, it won't be completely gone. There still needs some kind of asset manager, functions like pivot tables, pick list tables and stuff like that. But that's all can be integrated now with the feature definitions.
Well, I appreciate everything. Oak, I appreciate you staying on and Brian and Randy, y'all staying on for another hour, giving us some extra content. But I think
it's Friday
go ahead
afternoon,
and
so
shut this meeting down so I can capture the recording and get it posted.
Sounds great.
Later.
Everybody have a great weekend.
Yeah.
You too. Thanks, everybody.
Later.
Yep.